Did he see a UFO? Official UFO report from police officer. This is Final Death Star with an unfamiliar news update. With all the UFO and alien reports and claims, we're taking a look at an official UFO report coming out of England that took place in 1980. And the officer has held the belief that he did indeed see a UFO craft in the skies hovering above the road that day. His official report includes alien entities, missing time, a strange metallic craft, and medical procedures. Could this be another actual account of a UFO? This coming from themir.co.uk. Traffic officer gobsmacked after filming UFO hovering in skies while on patrol. Retired cop Alan Godfrey claimed he saw a UFO hovering over Todmorden, West Yorks in 1980 and insists it was covered up by the MOD and his superiors. A retired cop who claims he witnessed an infamous UFO has spoken out ahead of the 40th anniversary of the sighting and insists it was covered up by the MOD and his superiors. Alan Godfrey was gobsmacked when he spotted a diamond-shaped object hovering over the road while on patrol. He was searching for a herd of missing cows when he encountered the strange craft in Todmorden, West Yorks on November 28, 1980. How interesting that a UFO account goes hand in hand with missing cows. How many times have we seen cow mutilations and UFOs corresponding at the same time and place? Now, 40 years on, he remains as mystified as ever, but remembers the sighting vividly. Alan, who is now 73, said, quote, "After 40 years, the encounter is as fresh in my mind as though it was yesterday, but the mystery of what it is remains unanswered," end quote. At first he thought he was looking at a bus or a hot air balloon that had crashed, but on closer inspection, he realized he was seeing something out of this world. He grabbed a pen and drew a sketch of the UFO in his police notebook. After his radio failed to work, he noticed the bottom was rotating. Suddenly there was a bright flash, and he was 30 feet further down the road. The object had vanished. He drove back to the scene and discovered the road was dry, despite it having rained. A bus traveling on the road stopped, and the driver got out and noticed the same thing. Alan returned to the station but couldn't account for 25 minutes of what alien abduction researchers call missing time. He also had a split boot but couldn't account for it. Under hypnosis, arranged by solicitor Harry Harris, several months later he recalled seeing small beings and a tall man with a beard on the craft who conducted medical tests on him. His encounter is regarded by researchers as the first alien abduction in the UK. 6 months earlier, Alan found the body of a Polish man who had been missing for 5 days on top of a pile of coal in Todmorden. Zygmunt Adaminski, 56 years old, had burn marks on his neck, head, shoulders, and a strange ointment on the marks which could not be identified by scientists. James Turnbull, the coroner who dealt with Zygmunt's death, said it was the biggest mystery of his career. Alan, who has raised thousands for charities with public talks over the years, believes, quote, dark forces tried to silence him from speaking about his UFO experience. He received letters from Professor Valery Sakova of the Institute of Science and Technology in Moscow expressing interest in his sighting and another big case, the Rendlesham Forest incident 4 weeks later, which involved the U.S. military personnel from RAF Bentwaters in Suffolk. Alan believes his phone was then paid a visit by a mystery man from the Ministry of Defense. Speaking to UFO Chronicles, Alan said, quote, "The powers that be decided to discredit me. It started very small and built into a crescendo that went from the sublime to the ridiculous. I've never understood why they did it," end quote. There must have been a reason, he's quoted again saying, "for what they did to me. I got a letter from a professor at Moscow University. He wanted to know if I could assist him with my encounter, and an encounter that took place at an American Air Force base in Suffolk. I'd never heard of it, but it had happened 4 weeks after my encounter. He continues, like an idiot. Because I was a copper and wanted everything out in the open, I passed the letter on to my superiors. It was shortly after that I met a man from the ministry. I think he thought he was James Bond. Just call me the man from the ministry. That's all he said when I was being interviewed, and he sat in the corner. This man had a file with him. It was about 1 inch thick. He was reading it. I could see my drawing I'd done was in it. As he was fumbling about, I could see a sudden death report. I recognized it straight away. It was Adebski's file, so they'd been put together with mine. Why, I don't know. Because the Russians were involved. I was asked to keep in contact with the professor and pass on any letters I'd get to my superiors, who would pass it on to the man from the ministry. RAF Bentwaters was an RAF station which the Americans used. They had a nuclear base there. He's POC plod stuck in the middle of it. Looking back, I was treated like shit, he quotes. My file doesn't exist at the Ministry of Defense, because if it did, it would have been released by now. I have to ask myself, where is it? Where is the Adebski file? Why did the man from the ministry have both files? My file is in one piece of paper with a report about what happened that night and a drawing. I had sent it to the divisional office, who sent it to the Ministry of Defense. Either it's been classified or police got rid of it, which I doubt, because the man from the ministry wouldn't have gotten involved. Alan, now a granddad of 3, has recently battled a brain aneurysm and sepsis, remains open-minded about his alien abduction. He believes he may have jumbled memories of a book he read about an American couple named Betty and Barney Hill, who claimed they were abducted by aliens in 1961, a very famous case, also missing time. But he is convinced he saw a strange craft 40 years ago, adding, quote, if I had thrown a brick at it, it would have gone bang. It's 40 years since the incident, and I've never tried to influence anyone's opinion about UFOs or aliens. I just got on with my life. I had more important things in my life back then. I got 2 commendations as a copper, which you don't get very often. I just loved my job. I'm not one to convince anybody what's the point. What I saw that night was nuts and bolts solid object. It wasn't a hallucination. I didn't fall asleep. I've been driving police cars on nights for years. All I saw that night was an unidentified flying object. I had no idea whether it was extraterrestrial or man-made. I'd like to believe it was extraterrestrial because it is fascinating. I don't know. Well, there you have it. Another stunning alleged UFO sighting by an ex-police officer. Anytime a police officer or military come out with a report of what they've seen, I tend to take it a little more seriously. These people are trained observers. They're trained to notice details, trained to take notes, and frankly, they have a lot to lose as far as reputation and career are concerned. And for that reason, in my opinion, they're to be taken a little more seriously. In this particular case, he mentions missing time. That's something we've seen with Betty and Barney Hill. He mentions ending up in a different place than where he was allegedly taken. Again, we have seen this time and time again in UFO abduction stories. Is this credible? Based on his account, he believes he did see something in the skies that was very real, metallic object that he could indeed throw a rock at. Seems pretty real to me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and tune in on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. As we enter the unfamiliar, we dive into the paranormal, UFO phenomenon, biblical prophecy, strange mysteries, and hidden histories. We thank you for watching.